Greetings. This is the ELO show. I've had to be Oshun Yemi Akalatunde, and you are watching Got to Be Oshun television. I am out in the streets running some errands so that we can be ready for the week ahead. And because the traffic is absolutely thick in the great city of Atlanta, Georgia, in the Republic of New Africa, then I said, let me go and make this video that I've been thinking about, because this has been on my mind for a second, and so I wanted to address it. So the title of this video, I didn't put it in the live because I'm driving, but I'll put the title in once the live has been uploaded, is Stop Parroting for White Masculinist Imperialism. Stop trying to prove to white masculinist imperialism that you are just like them. You know, I African traditional religions, black people globally in general, and black women and femmes specifically take on a posture of parroting for white masculinist imperialism. So I'm going to give you, I thought about this years ago and I made a video about it. And once I get home and can find it, I'll link it in the description for this one. But I want to give you an example of what I mean. The first thing that I mean is as far as religion is concerned. I remember maybe 20 years ago when you would read books about African traditional religion, and the entire book would be based on the premise of trying to not even compare is not the word, but trying to show the similarities between African traditional religion and Abrahamic religions. So you would have things like, there's a book called Olodumare, God in Yoruba Belief. And that entire book doesn't mention any, not one female Orisha. It does not mention one at all, because the premise behind the book was trying so hard to make it seem as though the God concept from Abrahamic tradition was the same as the concept of the Olodumare. Like, they worked very hard to try to show those similarities. So that, I'm just giving an example in that book, but I recall those years when that was the norm, when people would say things like, oh, well, the Orisha are like angels, or your ancestors are like angels. People would say things like that. And I think it's fine as an initial point of understanding, but I think that it always requires a deeper explanation of the nuance. Because if you don't go ahead and more deeply explain the nuance, hold on. All right, guys. Then you, sorry, I'm trying to listen to my GPS. Then you run the risk of making it seem as though African traditional religions are just another version of Abrahamic religions. And the reason that this is essential and so important is because being raised in a society that's based on Abrahamic religions, it makes you believe that these ways of thinking are universal, right? Abrahamic religion, when you're raised in a society that's based on it, makes you that these things are all are the same, to the same place, just taking different routes. Thank you. You know, it said that kind of stuff. And so you are left with the erroneous belief that African are similar to religions, and they're not. But part of the other reason that happens is not just Abrahamic religions trying to make everyone believe that their beliefs are universal, but it is that those of us who don't practice Abrahamic religions are taught to be in apologetic posture, right? We are always apologizing for the ways in which we differ from Abrahamic traditions. So that apologetic posture is what I'm talking about in this video. Stop doing that. Like, stop feeling that your tradition has to apologize for not being like the tradition that has colonized the world, the tradition that has enslaved millions, the tradition in the tradition of Christianity is genocide. Genocide is in there. That's part of that religion. It's in every part of the Bible. Thank you so much for letting me on. I don't know what this other motherfucker's gonna do. I appreciate it. Right? So why do we have to move apologetically according to idiots for whom things like that is the norm in their tradition and in their cultural reality? So that first thing, the God in Yoruba belief thing, that's the first thing. The second thing is many practitioners of African traditional religion tried very hard to make it seem as if maleness is an authority, right? Oh, you got to go to some male to find out what's really happening. You got to talk to a male deity that is, and the mouthpiece for that male deity is a male person. Like, you've got to be doing that, to get yourself straight in this religion. They give a lot of authority to maleness, and that's not part of African traditional religion either. But in their parroting of Abrahamic tradition and not taking the time, I'm trying to, girl. If this motherfucker would let me off. In their parroting of it and not taking the time to actually study African traditional religion and learn what our communities, what our worldview, what our ethos is built on, they actually are just there recreating Abrahamic tradition. That's what's happening, right? They're wrapping it in Ashoke, and they're calling Abrahamic deities by Yoruba names. But to center maleness like that, oh, you have to go talk to a male priest. Oh, you have to listen to the wording of a male deity, right? In order to get the true message. Centering maleness like that, yeah, you're parroting white masculinist imperialism, or you're parroting for white masculinist imperialism, and you are looking at your own way of doing things from an apologetic stance. Like, stop doing that. Why is that necessary? Then we have this current thing, and I posted about it. So the current thing that people are doing is talking about, thank you, girl, is talking about ancestral traditions. It's talking about ancestral worship. The latest thing that people are doing is saying, I don't worship my ancestors. Sorry, guys, making sure I'm in the correct line. Yeah, so the newest thing that people are doing along these same lines is this thing saying, I don't worship my ancestors, I only venerate them. Why is that distinction necessary? Who are we making this distinction for? Right? Who requires this distinction of us? I don't worship my ancestors. Don't get us wrong. We don't worship our ancestors. We only venerate them. Who's requiring that distinction of us? Who are we speaking to when we feel that we have to make that particular distinction? Right. I don't practice my tradition from an apologetic stance. Right? I practice my tradition openly, loudly, and unapologetically. And I worship my ancestors. I worship my ancestors. In the same way that you worship the foreign gods of Yahweh and Jehovah and whoever else it is that you are worshiping, I worship my mother and my grandmother and my great grandmother. I worship them in that same way, right? I pray to them. I ask them for things. I give thanks for the things that they have sent me. I give thanks each and every day for having lived inside their body and for the DNA that I received by having the luxury of living inside their body. I worship my ancestors. So when we are taking the time to say we don't worship, who are we talking about? Who are we talking to? And why? Why don't you worship your ancestors? Because you don't want Jesus to be offended? Jesus is an ancestor. Now, he ain't your ancestor. He's an ancestor too. He's a Palestinian ancestor. That's what Jesus is. And his name would have to be Yeshua because there is no J in the Hebrew language. And I'm going to say that absolutely every opportunity that I get. But he is a revolutionary Palestinian ancestor. That's literally who Jesus is. But to keep from offending Jesus, you think that it is necessary to say that you don't worship your own black ancestors? Because the Palestinian ancestor Jesus would be offended by you worshiping your African ancestors. That's wild business right there. That's wild. And I don't believe it. But that's the latest thing, right? The latest thing is I don't worship my ancestors, I venerate. I worship mine. And it is the African traditional religious practice to worship them. Worshiping them is the practice, right? Maleness is not centered. Maleness is not authoritative. I hear a lot of people saying, well, in order to do that, I have to go to a babalawo. When you do that, you're centering maleness. Be careful of that. Be careful of that. This is not a tradition that centers maleness, right? Final thing. I don't know. When I heard the thing about we don't worship our ancestors, we venerate them, I know what's coming after that. I know what's coming after that. So the thing that's going to come after that I'm going to go ahead and address right now, is that I do worship many gods. I am a polytheist. I'm going to go ahead and address that now. It hasn't become popular yet on social media to say we don't worship many gods. We da 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 da. It hasn't become popular, but I know after that venerating ancestors, that's going to be the next apologetic stance that y'all take, is to try to say we do. I worship many gods. I worship a pantheon of gods and goddesses. I worship a whole lot of them. Worship a whole lot of ancestors, whole lot of gods. I do. So before y'all start apologizing for that and running off at the mouth and trying to call that something that it's not, there's another very famous book that was written on African I think it's called African Religions and Philosophies by John S. Mbiti. And it's a good book. I'm not saying that the book isn't good. I'm not saying don't get the book. But he says that African traditional religion is a diffused monotheism. Why is monotheism the standard? Why is monotheism the standard by which we have to measure all other religions? Who came up with that? And whose standard is it? But he was calling African traditional religion a diffused monotheism. I adamantly disagree. It is a polytheistic tradition. It is a tradition with a pantheon, right? Of deities of all gender expressions. Right? That is African traditional religion. So please, I know that's gonna be the next thing. We don't worship many gods. We practice a diffused monotheism. I know that's gonna be the next thing that people say. And even I said it in the past. I'm not saying I didn't say that in the past too, but it's bullshit, guys. It's bullshit. It was bullshit when I said it. It's polytheism. We worship many gods, right? And that's fine. Monotheism is not the standard, right? It's not the standard. And the final thing that I want to address, and it goes hand in hand with that centering maleness, is that people work so hard to try to make it seem as though African traditional religions and traditional African lifestyles are not matriarchal and matrifocal. So that's the next thing. People go out of their way to say that the foundation of African society and African religions is patriarchal. And I think a large part of that, I will, girl. I think a large part of that is that in post-colonial West and Central Africa, patriarchy really took root in a strong way. But I will say, just as we see in Northeast Africa, which is also called the Middle East, see how strong patriarchy is there? So when we go down to West and Central Africa and we see that patriarchy is very strong there, both of these are representations of how strong patriarchy has to be post colonially to keep down a deeply matriarchal and matrifocal society. The stronger you see post colonial patriarchy, the stronger pre colonial matriarchy was in that area. Let me say it again. The stronger the post colonial patriarchy, the stronger pre colonial matriarchy was in that area, right? So when you see that very serious patriarchal slant, like we see in Western Central Africa and like we see in Northeast Africa, that people call the Middle East, then you can be sure that the matriarchy there was extremely powerful, permeated every aspect of the society, of the culture, and of the religious practices, and took a very hard patriarchal turn to keep it down, to put it where we see it today. So I think that a large part of acting as if African traditional religion as well as traditional African society was very seriously patriarchal comes from looking at post-colonial West Africa. So let's start there, right? But we know and we can be sure, and those of us who have studied are completely aware of the fact that pre colonial West Africa and any pre colonial West and Central African society, including African American society, very seriously including African American society, is a deeply matrifocal and matrilineal and matriarchal society, right? And what I personally have always called a gynocentric society. So that is the next thing. The thing of parroting white masculinist imperialism and trying to make white people believe, nope, we treated our women, we have historically and traditionally treated our women just as bad as y'all have treated yours. We have historically and traditionally thought as little of our women as you guys have thought of yours, right? Trying to prove that to people who are heinous, who are absolutely heinous to their women. Yeah, stop this practice, guys. Stop parroting white masculinist imperialism. Stop trying to impress imperialists. Stop trying to prove to anybody that you, okay, I'm back. If it paused me for a second, I'm back now. Stop trying to prove that you and your life is just like the lives of colonizers. Stop trying to prove that your God and the way that you worship your God, your philosophy and the way that you practice your philosophy, your religious beliefs and the way that you practice them are just like that of the colonizer. Oh, it's just like Christianity except so and so. It's not. It ain't like Christianity at all. Oh, we believe in God just like you do, but so we don't. We don't believe anything similar to what you believe. Oh, you know, women um hold the same place. They don't. They don't. It's not anything like that. We don't think the same things about our women. Oh, you know, men hold the same place. They don't. It's not anything like what you think. right? Be proud to say this heinous regime that has built this world and this system that we are currently all being held hostage by is absolutely nothing like the ways of my ancestors. Be proud to say that. It's absolutely nothing like the life that I live and the shit that I do. It's nothing like that. It is the complete opposite of that. Matter of fact, the polar opposite. Whatever they doing, I can assure you that I'm over here doing the polar opposite of that. I can assure it. Whatever they think, whoever they tell you is the authority, I can assure you that I think the exact opposite person is the authority. I can assure you of that. Right? Matter of fact, be proud of the ways in which your life differs from the lives of people who believe those things. Be proud of the ways in which your life is in direct opposition to the people who believe those things, right? And as my goddaughter, the baddest witch, is saying, I can't stand that statement. We only believe in one God. Because who cares? And we know who cares, right? We know who cares and who they trying. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Stop that. And please, if I don't think YouTube is gonna let you do it, baddest witch, text it to me. Text to me your Substack, even if it has to be subscribed to, because you need to be compensated for your genius, where you wrote about Eshu being the devil, Oshun being a hoe. Text that to me, so I'm gonna put a link to it in the description of this particular video, because this is on that too. I'm on some of that. I'm right there with you on that, as you know, right? But people need to read that. But yeah, come on, guys, let's get out of this apologetic stance where we got to convince somebody, where we got to make people believe, that we just like them. I'm not about that. We ain't like you. We ain't like you. And if that is what you require, then you don't have any business being over here. And if that is important to you, then you can't sit with us. You're not one of us, right? It's not some kind of Christianity light. That's not what it is. Which doesn't have sprinkles of those beliefs in it. That's not what it is. That ain't ever what it's ever been. Right? Don't delude yourself. Don't delude yourself. And don't believe, because currently what they're trying to do is include parts of African traditional religion in Christianity so that they will stop losing so many members to the truth, to the facts. Right? So they're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're not against that. Oh, we're cool with it. Y'all ain't cool with that. Y'all ain't cool with that. Y'all's book speaks against that. We are in opposition, and that's fine. But don't be over here lying. I do worship my ancestors. Women and children are the center. Right? Right? I am in direct opposition to capitalism, to patriarchy, to imperialism, to the killing and the pillaging of the earth. I'm in direct opposition to that. I am in direct opposition to homophobia, transphobia. I'm in direct opposition to that. My beliefs are in direct opposition to that. I am in direct opposition to any kind of mass murdering of groups of people. I'm in direct. There's nothing in Odu that says go and do that to somebody. Now your spiritual book tells you to go and do that. So that's a way of life that whoever that Palestinian deity was told y'all to live. I don't do that. That's not in my spiritual body of work. I'm in direct opposition to that. And I'm proud to say that I'm in direct opposition to that. Right? I'm proud. I don't apologize. I'm not stepping and fetching and trying to be meek and trying to make you believe that I'm not doing the same thing that you're doing. Right? So yeah, I just had to, that's been on my mind. And like I said, I have a similar video. I think I have two. And I'll link those in the description. And I'm going to link my goddaughter Substack for you so that you can read her genius and what she has had to say on this topic. Because I think that it is important that you understand your foundation. It is important that you understand where the hell you is coming from. so that you'll know where the fuck you is going. And if you up here thinking that you coming from that direction, we ain't coming from that direction, boo. We coming from this direction right here. And you need to know that. And I want motherfuckers to know that. All right. Let me get in here and get all of these errands done. We got pre-Samhain, we got pre-birthday, we got All Saints Day, right? We got all kind of shit that we gotta take care of today. So let me go and take care of all of that. Ecstasy, abundance, and bliss to anyone within the sound of my voice who is wishing the same to me and mine. And as always, we wish the lessons of life on those who are ignorant enough to wish us otherwise. I'm going to read some of the comments because I love y'all and y'all are the greatest. Yeah, proudly so. Proudly different from them. Exactly. See, they the one. Oh, nice linguist done said it. They trying to syncretize our shit. Yes, they are. And yes, the mighty hath fallen. Praise the goddess. Praise the goddess. I love you back. All right, you guys, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Prepare for the upcoming High Holy Sabbath of Samhain. Let us celebrate our ancestors. Let us celebrate our own dark sides. Let us celebrate this sweet, beautiful, powerful moment in the darkness that we are all experiencing together, that is invigorating us and empowering us to grow everything that we need to grow in this moment. All right. Ecstasy, abundance, and bliss. See y'all later. Peace.